What is up, people? Van from the VaniverseGaming channel here, bringing you another video on Solasta CoTM Magister. In today's video, we are going to cover all the level 3 spells that are available in Solasta Crown of the Magister. We are going to give you a little description of each spell. I'm going to give you my ranking of what I think, if it's a must-have or a good spell or situational, or if I think it's a terrible spell and you probably shouldn't even worry about it. We're going to talk about what spells might only be available in Solasta Crown of the Magister versus 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And we're going to basically do it in the same order we have in the past on my other videos, which is we'll go through the Arcane Wizard spells first, then we'll move to the Cleric spells, and then the Druid, and then finally I believe there is a Ranger spell that is Ranger only. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, this is where you become a boss in Solasta Crown of the Magister. At level 5 is when Wizards, Clerics, and Druids start getting level 3 spells. And level 3 spells are where you start to become OP. So let's get started with what we have available here. So first up, we have Bestow Curse. So Bestow Curse is a touch spell that if you touch someone, you get to choose an action that they get to do. You do have to concentrate on it. So because it's a touch spell, because you have to concentrate on it, this is not something that I actually would slot. I've never used it in Solasta. And so I would say this is a terrible spell given your other options at level 3. Coming in at number 2, we got Counterspell. So this is a must-have. If you're playing a wizard, you must run a Counterspell. As you start getting higher in the game, just like you're gaining spells like Fireball and all those things, so is the enemy. And so the last thing you want is to have a Fireball come at your whole party. So a nice handy reaction to Counterspell that is a must-have in this game. Dispel Magic, again, this is a spell which it does have its uses. If there are some creatures or spellcasters that put down certain spells, being able to dispel them is nice. I just don't think it's worth using a level 3 spell option when you have some of the other spells. So this is very situational. If you want to keep it for certain situations, great. It's not a must-have. I very rarely, if ever, use Dispel Magic. Fear. So this is a great spell. Basically, you can frighten 6 certain targets within a 6-block radius. If they are frightened, they must run away from you from the source of fear, and they just use all their movement to run away, and it's a wisdom saving throw. Now, by itself, this is an okay spell, but combine this with like a druid's spike growth, where you're basically fearing them through the spike growth. Most likely, they're all going to die just trying to run away from you, and then once their fear wears off and they want to come back towards you, they're going to continue to run over the spike growth and kill themselves. Situational spell, but can have very, very good usage depending on the situation. Fireball. So I would be remiss to say if you don't pick up Fireball as a wizard, then just stop playing 5th edition D&D and Solasta altogether. It is a must that you have to have Fireball. You can't be a wizard and not have Fireball level 3. So basically, you send a giant Fireball 150 feet, and it explodes for 8d6 fire damage, and they roll a dex saving throw, and they can take half damage. Not only is this a great spell, it's super powerful, but it's just something you have to have. Fly. This is also a must-have spell in Solasta. You can get away with using a potion or a spell scroll, so you don't have to necessarily memorize this or learn this. I just recommend it. There are certain areas in this game where Fly is just going to help you from a traversing the terrain type thing. So I recommend having this, but again, this is probably situational, and you can probably get there with potions and scrolls. Haste. Haste is a really, really good spell. It does take up your concentration. So as a wizard, you have to figure out what you want to concentrate on. Haste is great because for 1 minute, you can give a target, you can double their speed, you can get +2 to their AC, and saving throws, dex saving throws have advantage. And the key part is they get to take an additional attack on their turn. So if somebody gets normally 2 attacks, they can now do 3 attacks. So if you haste a creature, this is fantastic. It can really help you dish out some more damage. The only caveat to this is if the person loses haste, they are now completely unable to move for an entire turn. They're exhausted, and so they're pretty much shut down on their next turn. This can be okay, but it can also be very bad. And the only way that's going to happen is if you lose concentration as a wizard. So just keep that in mind. You losing concentration, or after a minute's time, that person who you cast this on is not going to be able to do anything. So keep that in mind. Hypnotic Pattern. So this is an upgrade to what we saw with the color spray. What this does is it targets up to, I forget, as many targets are within a 30-foot cube. And basically they are incapacitated, speed to 0 until wounded or awoken. So it pretty much takes out everybody if they fail a wisdom saving throw. They're just kind of standing there looking silly. However, the key is wounded or awoken. So if you do damage to them, it breaks them out. And if one of the enemies decides to touch them, it actually wakes them up. Now, on lower difficulties, I haven't really seen them wake up their enemies as much. But when you get to the higher difficulties, the AI is pretty smart. And so you're only going to stop them for probably one turn. But the enemies who were not affected are going to use their actions to try and wake up their buddies, which also gives you another free turn. So situational spell, it has some uses. It's not a must-have. Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt to me is a must-have. There are going to be areas, there are going to be times where you need to do significant amounts of damage, and Fireball is going to hit everybody, and you don't want to use a Fireball. So Lightning Bolt is the next best option. So to me, Lightning Bolt and Fireball, you got to have them. Protection from Energy. This is one of those things where it gives you resistance, whoopity-doo. I just don't think it's worth a concentration spell. Don't pick it up. Remove Curse. There's very rarely are you going to get Curse in this game. Terrible spell. Don't pick it up. Sleet Storm. Sleet Storm's pretty good. It puts down a nice big old rain of sleet. It doesn't do any damage. They roll a dexterity saving throw. Creatures in this area, it's obscured vision. It's kind of like a fog cloud where they can't see. They're slowed down, so they can't walk through. All fire is put out. But the key thing is, if you cast this on a caster, they have to roll a concentration saving throw, and if they fail, they lose concentration. I do not recommend this. This is situational. It has certain implications, but there are way better spells at level 3 that you should choose over Sleet Storm. Slow. So slow is the opposite of haste. Slow is great. It cuts things speed in half. It does their AC down -2, makes them fail dex saving throws, and now they can only take either an action or a bonus action, not both. It's a concentration spell similar to haste. This is very situational. There are some creatures this is going to benefit on. There's some creatures it just doesn't make sense. So just keep that in mind. But it is an area of effect. So if you do hit, everybody within that area is going to be slowed, which is, if you can hit everything and they all get slowed, it's going to really change around some of the fights. So I would say this is situational, leaning towards a must-have, just depending on how your playstyle is and how your party's developed. Stinking Cloud. Stinking Cloud's pretty good. Creatures have to make a con saving throw. If they fail their con saving throw, they spend their time choking on gas instead of doing anything. And it's like fog, it's heavily obscured, so they can't see anything. That's really all you get from this, is it's going to lock down certain creatures. So if you have some casters or some ranged creatures that are really messing up your day, throw a Stinking Cloud on them, and then they're sitting there choking and they can't do anything. This is a situational one leading towards not worth picking up because they're just better level 3 spells. Tongues. Tongues is just like Comprehend Languages. It's just not worth it. You know, if you have Comprehend Languages as a ritual, why would you ever cast? Yeah, this is worthless. Don't do it. Vampiric Touch. So Vampiric Touch is pretty interesting. It's a melee hit for 1 minute. It grants you the Vampiric Touch. You can perform a melee spell attack that does 3d6 necrotic damage, and then you get a portion of that damage back as life. The thing with this is it's a concentration spell. So you basically use your concentration, then on your turn, you use your attack to make a melee attack on someone. You grab them, you do 3d6 necrotic damage, and then there's a chance to heal yourself. This is a decent spell if you have a very high AC and you don't get hit a lot. It gives you the ability to consistently do damage, but it does require a melee hit, so you have to be in melee range. So this is situational depending on your build, but it can actually be a lot of fun. All right, so that covers all the Arcane Wizard spells. Let's move over to Cleric level 3 spells. Alrighty, so for Cleric level 3, we're going to start with Beacon of Hope. So Beacon of Hope is a range of 30 feet. You can hit up to 6 targets. It lasts for 1 minute. And they have advantage on Wisdom and Death saving throws. Healing restores maximum possible hit points. So this is interesting because if they are within this bubble, then it will actually, it's a concentration spell, but if you cast a heal spell on them, there is no roll. They just get the maximum amount of health. So this is nice to use in conjunction with like Prayer of Healing or something of the sort. This is very situational. This is not a must-have, but I've seen this work pretty good. Bestow Curse, we already talked about. Create Food. So Create Food to me is maybe a must-have if you don't have a druid with Goodberry. Having the ability to conjure food is going to be helpful for you so you don't have to carry around rations. It's worth it, in my opinion, if you're running with just a cleric and no druid and you don't want to carry around rations. Daylight. Daylight to me is a must-have in Solasta Crown of the Magister. There are far too many fights where things are light sensitive, which gives them disadvantage, and also does damage to them if they're in the Daylight spell. It lasts for an hour, it does not require concentration, and depending on what level your Daylight spell is over the enemies, you can actually get rid of the Darkness spell. To me, this is a must-have in Solasta Crown of the Magister, solely for that reason. All right, Dispel Magic we talked about. Hypnotic Pattern we talked about. Mass Healing Word. Instantly heals up to 6 allies you can see. So basically this takes your Healing Word spell and allows you to cast it on up to 6 allies as a bonus action. So doing 1d4 plus, let's say, 4 on this to all of your party members is just a great spell to have. It's not a lot of hit points. This is definitely used more for if you have a lot of people that are down to bring them back. Otherwise, you're wasting your 3rd level spell on a very small amount of hit points, so just keep that in mind. This is a nice spell to have, but just keep in mind you don't really want to waste this because you can use other spells that are level 3 that are probably going to get you more bang for your buck. We already talked about Remove Curse. We did not talk about Revivify, but Revivify I would not learn because there's tons of Revivify scrolls in this game. So don't bother slotting this as a spell slot. Just use the scrolls that are provided to you through the game. Slow, we're not going to talk about that. So Spirit Guardians. So if Fireball is a must-have for a wizard at level 3, Spirit Guardians to me is a must-have as a cleric. So you put an AoE sphere around you, and that AoE sphere has 3d6 radiant damage to anything that enters into it on its turn or ends its turn within, or starts its turn with inside of it. So you can't move the Spirit Guardians onto things and they take damage. They have to willingly enter it. But if they start their turn in it, then they take the damage as well. So 3d8 radiant damage, halved if they pass a wisdom saving throw. This thing is so great if you have a cleric and you want to get up in people's face. It also slows their movement by half. So as long as you can keep up your concentration, this is just amazing. And you can target creatures that are not affected by it. So like this isn't going to hit any of your party members. This is one of the strongest spells in 5th edition D&D, in my opinion, at these levels. All right, and then we already talked about tongues. So now let's switch over to the druid and we'll show you some of the druid spell options at level 3. Spells that are unique to a druid. First one being Called Lightning. Called Lightning is a fantastic spell. It puts a giant lightning storm in a certain AoE radius. The radius is 6 by 4, so what is that? 20 feet by 30 feet. And basically, you get to target an area that's like a 10-foot radius, and you get to hit them with a lightning bolt. It does, I believe it does somewhere around 3d10 damage. It doesn't show the damage here, but I think it does 3d10 damage. On a failed save, on a save it does half. But you have to use your action. So you concentrate on this storm, and then every turn you use your action to do 3d10 damage to a particular. You can do it to an AoE group of creatures because it's a 4 square or 10 foot radius. Just a really, really strong spell. I think it's actually a 20-foot radius. I'm sorry. So it's a 30-foot cylinder, and then the damage can be done in a 20-foot radius. Very, very strong spell. I love it. You can just sit back with your druid. You can throw bonus action Healing Words, and then you can just sit there and use your action to lightning bolt everything. This is a must-have for a druid, in my opinion. Conjure Animals. Conjure Animals is a fantastic spell. If I would say Call Lightning is really great, so is Conjure Animals. There are going to be times where you need more things on the board to prevent taking damage on your characters. When you conjure the one beast, it's a more powerful beast. I always like doing the Conjure 2 beast because it gets me 2 dire wolves. and having the ability to run around 2 dire wolves who can attack and potentially knock things prone, and they're somewhat beefy, it's a really, really great spell to have. So to me, Call Lightning and Conjure Animal are a must-have for a druid. Both have their benefits depending on the situation. Both are fantastic spells. And then the last spell that is druid only is Windwall. This falls in the category of dumb, hate it, don't use it, it's silly, don't memorize it. All right, so that covers the druid. So at this point, that is all the spells that are available to the at 3rd level in Solasta Crown of the Magister. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As you can see, as we get further on into the levels of spells, the amount of spells gets down lower and lower, so the videos get shorter and shorter. But I hope you do like these videos. I hope you enjoy all the other videos we have on Solasta. If you do, please give us a like on the video. Please go ahead and subscribe and click the little bell to see all of my videos on Solasta and in general. We will have a 4th level, 5th level, and 6th level spell video coming out. Not sure if I'm going to combine them all together or if I'm going to put them into separate videos, but if you were to subscribe and click on the bell, you would be ready when I do get one out. Thank you for watching. This is Vaniverse from the VaniverseGaming channel. Cheers and peace out.